From time to time on here, I like to look back on TV shows or movies that are relatively obscure to some of us, usually sticking to some kind of theme. And this time around, with it being graduation season, I'm looking back on the movie Post Grad. This film was released in 2009 and stars Alexis Bledel, best known for her role as Rory on Gilmore Girls, and in film as Lena on The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. And fun fact, it was directed by Vicky Jensen, who is best known for her involvement in animated films, including directing Shark Tale and the first Shrek. And it was produced by legendary filmmaker Ivan Reitman, director of Ghostbusters. I actually came across this movie by accident. I was scrolling for something to watch one night that I'd never seen before, and I just randomly found it. It wasn't exactly a very successful movie, but I found that I quite enjoyed it. Now, just so you guys know, because I know that a lot of my retrospectives focus on projects that we watched as kids, this movie is aimed more at a teenage audience and contains some teenage situations. But either way, I hope you enjoy. Now, let's begin. As we begin, our main character, Ryden Malby, logs into her MySpace page recording a live video for her audience, excited about finally graduating university. If you've ever seen the movie Easy A, it makes me think a lot about that because most of the movie is Emma Stone's character telling the story in a webcast, but this one doesn't go on for most of the movie. Anyway, Ryden is very much a type A personality, having devised her own little plan for post-college success all the way back in high school. Suddenly, she gets interrupted when she receives a video message from her schoolmate, Jessica Bard, who Ryden has constantly been in competition with since 3rd grade, with Jessica beating Ryden for valedictorian, bragging about it in her message. At graduation, Jessica's speech gets interrupted by the arrival of Ryden's family, including her very ill grandmother, played by Carol Burnett, who disturbs the person in front of her by having Cheetos. After the ceremony, Ryden and her family, along with her lifelong best friend Adam, all go out to lunch. Ryden's father Walter suggests that she come and work with him, but Adam reveals that Ryden has an interview with publishing company Happerman and Browning, Ryden's dream job, with her and Adam planning to rent an apartment within walking distance of the Happerman and Browning offices. Ryden is very ambitious. She is very adamant on getting this job, so much so that she signs the lease before her interview. Adam drives Ryden to Happerman and Browning for her interview, when suddenly, a large truck hits Ryden's car and pushes it out of the way, and drives off before they can get the license plate number. Hit and run. What an asshole. Ryden eventually makes it to the Happerman and Browning offices on foot. When asked why she wants this job, Ryden explains her passion about books to the woman conducting the interview, who doesn't seem too impressed, and after Ryden says that she can't imagine herself doing anything else, the woman sends Ryden on her way. And the next interviewee after her is Jessica, who the interviewer seems to be more impressed by, and it becomes clear that she'll end up getting the job instead of Ryden. During the interview, Ryden mentions that she held internships with Random House, Penguin, and Time Warner. I actually looked it up after watching this movie for the first time, and Happerman and Browning isn't even an actual publishing company. It was made up just for this movie, but the others are all real. Following Ryden's disastrous job interview, she and Adam are instantly evicted from their apartment and head to Adam's father's supermarket, where Adam tries to comfort Ryden. Throughout the movie, it is shown that Adam has something of a crush on Ryden, but she doesn't really feel the same way, which Adam continues to give Ryden a hard time for. But at one point, it does look as if Ryden is starting to feel the same when they find Adam's father Roy with one of his cashiers. Adam chastises Roy for not showing up at his graduation, but Roy states that he doesn't want to talk about it. Without a job, a home, or a car, Ryden moves back in with her family. To her disappointment, but her parents' delight, with Walter stating that he can fix Ryden's car himself despite never having done so before. While Adam helps Ryden and her family move everything back into the house, Ryden's brother Hunter suddenly shows up, asking Walter to help him make a boxcar for an upcoming derby Hunter is interested in racing in, but Walter pushes him away when he suddenly steps in cat leavings from the neighbor's cat. Annoyed, Walter goes to complain to the neighbor, but he gives up when they don't answer right away. Ryden sticks around when the neighbor, a Brazilian man named David Santiago, answers. Walter comes back to complain about the cat, and David apologizes, promising to talk to the cat, which, yeah, I don't think that'll work. David politely says goodbye to Ryden before going back inside, which Adam notices. Just saying, David seems like a very polite person, and Walter isn't exactly being friendly towards him. I mean, I do sympathize with the cat leavings thing. I don't think I'd like that either. I actually tend to get grossed out pretty easily. But I don't know if I would handle it the way Walter did. Or maybe that's just me. I don't know. Ryden continues interviewing for different jobs, but none of them are either what she is looking for or she isn't what they're looking for. As I said before, Ryden is very ambitious. I've done this myself before job meetings and interviews, practicing what I might want to say depending on the questions they ask you, and at one point she tells herself, "I am driven, full of ideas, I am upbeat, and most importantly, I am very enthusiastic," before we cut to her in an interview finishing her sentence, "about the work your company is doing." The person conducting the interview asks Ryden, "Like what?" And Ryden doesn't really know what to say. Ryden's mother, Carmela, picks Hunter up from school due to him being sent home for his behavior when they also pick up Ryden from another interview, which also didn't go well due to her asking the interviewer if she was pregnant. Let's just say she wasn't. Carmela tries to put in a good word for Ryden through her high school friend Betty, who runs her own publishing company, but it turns out Walter already tried that only to learn that Betty has passed away. Surprises me that Carmela didn't know that. Suddenly, Carmela gets a phone call, and it sounds very serious as we come to what appears to be a funeral for Ryden's grandmother Maureen. But it turns out that she's only preparing for her death and funeral, wanting the family's opinion on caskets. She even asks Hunter, "What do you think of Grandma spending her eternal slumber in this one?" Maureen and Carmela go over all of the paperwork with the funeral director, who seems to be like a salesman, asking, "What do I have to do to get you into one of my coffins today?" That could be taken two ways. Anyway, while they're doing that, Ryden browses at some of the caskets, only to be startled to find Hunter hiding in one of them as he pops up and causes Ryden to knock down all of the caskets. This really isn't Ryden's day, but it seems as if they bought the casket as they drive home with it on top of the car. At home that night, Ryden continues with her job search when Walter presents her degree that arrived in the mail, but it doesn't bring Ryden much joy. Walter pitches the idea of Ryden going into business with him selling belt buckles. Ryden points out that Walter was promoted to regional manager at the luggage store he works at, but Walter insists that they could make a lot of money on belt buckles, since, as he says, none of this other crap is really working out, even naming Ryden as vice president, but Ryden dismisses Walter's idea. Earlier in the movie, while Ryden and Adam were on the way to Happerman and Browning for the interview, Adam reveals to Ryden that he got a letter from Columbia University, but hasn't opened it yet, and at this point in the movie, he still hasn't opened his letter from Columbia, to his father's chagrin. Adam feels as if he would be disappointing his dad if he doesn't go to Columbia, but his dad only wants more for Adam, with his dad feeling as if he himself is wasting his own life. Now, I should point out that this movie is set in LA, and Columbia, of course, is in New York, and that will become important later in the movie. But I'm assuming at this point that Adam's anxious about what could be in the letter because it would mean moving to another city where you don't really know anybody. Adam and Ryden attend a graduation party with their college mates where Jessica brags about working with Happerman and Browning in front of Ryden. Everyone tries to coax Adam into accepting the offer from Columbia as he claims to have gotten in, again without actually opening the letter. Jessica asks Ryden what she's been up to, and Ryden sort of skids around the answer, telling Jessica that she's been interviewing and keeping her options open. Jessica answers, "So what you're saying is you're unemployed." Hey, looking for a job can feel like a full-time job itself. While Jessica's gotten a job already, Ryden isn't giving up. She's showing interest in meeting with people. Jessica got the job at Happerman and Browning by being preppy and acting like she's better than Ryden. And might I add, in front of Ryden. Feeling like a loser, Ryden goes outside and Adam joins her, inviting her to a music gig of his coming up, still rumbling with whether or not to go to Columbia. Meanwhile, Walter starts his belt buckle business with the help of a shady-looking salesman, and Hunter, using a disguise, tries to coax Walter into helping make a boxcar. Ryden helps Walter bring a box of buckles inside, still wanting her to work with him. However, Ryden is concerned about her car, but according to Walter, he's waiting on a part to be delivered, saying, "You've got to keep trying," and suggesting that Ryden might be setting her sights too high. So Walter gets Ryden a job at his luggage store, but she doesn't really show a lot of enthusiasm, and she isn't really the best salesperson. So Walter has her practice on him, to her annoyance. Ryden finally gets to try when an actual customer arrives, but guess who it turns out to be? Jessica. Jessica is looking to buy a suitcase for a conference in New York and asks Ryden for a particular suitcase. When Ryden uses a stepladder to bring it down for her, Jessica constantly changes her mind, really pushing Ryden's buttons, especially when Jessica again starts bragging about her job. Eventually, Jessica's indecisiveness pushes Ryden completely over the edge and she quits. Finally, Walter successfully repairs Ryden's car, but he puts too much pressure on the engine and the car backs out of the garage super fast, accidentally running over David's cat. Walter blames this on Ryden for not telling him to look behind him, reminding her to keep her eyes on the road when driving, but Ryden points out that Walter made her look at the engine. Ryden and Carmela both know that Walter hated that cat and believe that this was intentional, but Walter insists that it was an accident. Ryden goes with Walter to tell David the news as he knocks on the door to the tune of "Shave and a Haircut," which Ryden gives Walter a hard time for. Hey, I've knocked on the door the same way. That's the one that goes da 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 da. The second that David answers the door, Walter tells him, "Cat's dead," and Ryden apologizes. David doesn't seem too angry about it, and the Malbys attend a memorial service in David's backyard for Senor Gato. Hey, they could have found a coffin for a cat at the funeral parlor earlier. After burying the cat in a pizza box, Ryden again apologizes for what happened, and David invites her into his house for pancakes, where he learns that David directs infomercials as he shows some of the various products to Ryden and offers her a job on set as a production assistant but with minimal pay. Ryden accepts the offer, and David starts complimenting Ryden very weirdly, but then she immediately starts kissing him. Just then, Ryden's family shows up to give David cookies as an apology, shocked to find David and Ryan together. Walter forbids Ryden to see David, but Ryden argues that she is an adult. Walter reminds Ryden that she lives in his house, and Ryden responds, "I'm doing everything I can to change that." Does Walter know that David gave Ryden a job? Just then, Walter gets visited by a gentleman named Bill who claims to have had his boxes of belt buckles stolen and discovered that Walter is trying to sell them and demands for them back, but Walter manages to frighten Bill away in a Spider-Man-like way as Bill threatens to call the police. Meanwhile, Adam's crush on Ryden becomes even less subtle when the pair go clothes shopping together. While Ryden is changing, he sings for her a song that he wrote about her that he plans to play at his gig, attracting attention from the other shoppers, who chuckle at the lyrics hinting at Adam's feelings for Ryden. Ryden calls to him, "You're an idiot," and Adam replies, "You love me," and offers to take Ryden out to dinner before the gig to celebrate her new job on set. However, the product that the infomercial is the subject of, the Guacanator 3000, seems somewhat faulty, and the spokesman complains that his fake mustache isn't very comfortable. During a break, I'm assuming the inventor of the product has some ideas for the infomercial, wanting it to seem more like an action movie. But David doesn't really agree with any of these ideas and walks off set, bringing Ryden with him as they head to the beach. Although, Ryden could have stayed on set. But Ryden gets so distracted that she misses Adam's calls and skips his gig. After David drops Ryden off at home, she finds Adam sitting outside and she realizes that she forgot about him. She apologizes to Adam, who at first seems okay with it, but he really feels ignored and ends his friendship with Ryden. As Ryden makes her way home, 2 police cars surround her house when Walter is arrested for trafficking stolen property, the belt buckles to Bill's pleasure, and the rest of the family goes to the police station where they keep Walter overnight, despite him having no prior arrests, setting bail for the next day. Carmela tries to defend Walter, telling the police officer, "He's not a criminal, he's just a moron." Maureen chimes in, reminding Carmela that she warned her not to marry Walter, her own son, stating that she did the best she could with what she had. Hunter worries about Walter while Ryden tries reaching Adam, but without any luck. The family seems to have fallen asleep at the police station as an officer gently wakes Carmela up to bail Walter out for $15,000. Maureen suggests leaving until the trial, but Carmela tries to convince Maureen to pay Walter's bail, which makes her feel as if the family is taking advantage of her. But after Hunter tells Maureen that she loves her for her and not her money, she gets talked into it. After the family returns home, Ryden gets a call from who she hopes is Adam, but it actually turns out to be Happerman and Browning. Because of Jessica being, let's just say, herself, the position that Ryden interviewed for has become available and is offered to Ryden, who instantly and very excitedly accepts. She tries to reach Adam again to share the exciting news, but he continues ignoring her. But she manages to catch up to him using an ice cream truck, containing all of their favorite sweet treats, to make one final attempt to apologize to Adam, interrupting his basketball game with his friends. It makes Adam smile a bit, and Ryden apologizes, which Adam accepts, albeit with a smirk. After Ryden shares her exciting news about the job with Adam, he shares some news with her. He has decided to go to Columbia and is leaving for New York the next day. At Happerman and Browning, Ryden is asked to enter files into the computer database, picking up Jessica's slack with even her face on the computer screensaver, and she also helps set up for board meetings, organizes the mail, scrapes gum off of her boss's shoe, and continues working into the night, which really impresses the boss, Lloyd Hastings. I really like the guy who plays the boss, too. He's been in a lot of shows and movies I like. Ryden pays David a visit where he tells her that he as well is planning on moving, heading back home to Brazil to spend more time with his family, telling Ryden that what you do with your life is one half of the equation. The other half is who you were with when you were doing it. The next day, the family head to the derby that Hunter has been begging Walter to help him build a boxcar for, made mostly from Maureen's coffin and a pair of skis, which are still on the ground when the whistle blows. Walter gets Hunter to pull the brake, which is a ski pole, and Hunter manages to pass the other racers and crosses the finish line first, but when he pulls the brake, the skis fall off the car and Hunter ends up crashing into a pond. The rest of the family catches up to him just when Hunter emerges from the surface and the family celebrates Hunter's win. Ryden notices one of the racer's parents giving her son an ice cream sandwich, a favorite of hers and Adam's, and she starts to think about what David had told her, finally realizing her feelings for Adam as she quits her job and packs her things for New York, with the full support of her family. Now, mind you, she left without even telling Adam, so when Ryden finally arrives at Columbia, she knocks on the door with the shave and a haircut beat, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and she tries to confess her true feelings to Adam, but spots another woman in his dorm. Disappointed, Ryden leaves and decides to go back home, but Adam catches up to her and explains that the woman in his dorm was actually his RA, as the two finally begin their relationship. The movie ends with the Mollabys sharing with Ryden that they're all planning a visit, to Adam's surprise. He's like, wait, the whole family? And it looks as though Ryden and Adam have found a place of their own, because that doesn't really look like Adam's dorm room. So that's Post Grad. It's a very realistic movie. I've mentioned before that Ryden is very ambitious. She has a lot of potential. She has the perfect attitude when it comes to job searching. I would be curious to know what she and Adam have been up to since. With Ryden's potential, I'm guessing she probably would have her own publishing company. And Jessica's probably at McDonald's. I have to say, one of the things I really like about this movie is the cast. I mentioned Alexis Bledel, I mentioned Carol Burnett, mentioned I like the guy who played the boss, Andy Daly. There's also Michael Keaton, Jane Lynch, Fred Armisen, J.K. Simmons, Craig Robinson. I mean, these are some pretty big names. It makes me wish this movie was more successful. If this is a movie you would be interested in watching, it's streaming on Disney+, so you can check it out there. And if you've just graduated and you're going back to school, or you're working, or whatever, I wish you luck with whatever you plan to do, and I'll see you next time.